Yes.
Tim?
Yep.
Chance?
Yep.
Jim?
Present.
Deb?
Yes.
Myself here. Now approve the agenda. Starting with the minutes. If you guys have any questions on that, we'll go on.
Mr. Sauer, I'm sorry, did we skip item 6? Approve the agenda before
We're doing
consent
it right
agenda?
now. Oh, no, this is, my bad.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I think you did roll call, but then moved in the consent agenda, but.
Right,
So,
right, we gotta approve the agenda itself, number 6. Did you wanna add something?
no, it'd fit under, item 11.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the agenda then.
I'll second.
Let's go first and seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. Motion carries 6-0. Now we'll move to the consent agenda. Good call. There's no questions on the minutes. We'll go on to the financials.
Did get confirmation of, we have a CD that matures today from Midwest Bank, that is going from 1.24 to 1/2. So they've all been going down, the maturity dates of them all in the past 8 months, they've gone down significantly, so. We'll have, I'm sure that next one that matures next month, also in the Midwest, that 150,000 flex, will probably go to 0.5%.
So the activities fund, you're just kinda working that down, right? I mean, you got this page where you got every month in here, it just keeps getting lower and lower. But that was kind of our intention to get that, some of that money out of there, correct? Or
Yeah,
just work
well,
its way through?
it's not necessarily intentional, it just, you know, this time of year, you know, when there's more expenditures than revenue.
Are we putting money into the activity?
Well, we've budgeted funds to subsidize the athletics,
Right.
which is part of activities.
So we have next month to do it.
Yeah.
This was-
Blows my mind how much we spend on electricity. Jesus.
We've got an energy audit that we'll be visiting about over the next several weeks and maybe a couple months to determine, you know, efficiency of utility use and.
Yeah, the gas bill's about the same as electric bill on a yearly basis, according to that energy audit. Okay, if there's no more on the financial reports, we'll go to claims. Shop proposal, did our tools come in?
There, most of them are. Several boxes from Grizzly have been delivered this week and last week.
Today.
Mostly all today.
I saw
Maybe it was.
But that's the guy that called me
Yeah.
today and said, yeah, I'm actually gonna work.
Yeah, so there's some impressive boxes in the shop, but most of which I think has arrived.
Is that financial software, is that for bookkeeping or is that
That's
for
mine,
classes?
yeah,
for
that's,
you.
it actually came to use as one too, so we got rid of came use and so now we both use it. Work everything.
Well, and some are required. I mean, you have to have, school districts have to use an auditor-approved software.
Talking about the Suburban later in your report.
Yes, or now, I mean, our Suburban, our good one, we have two, one of them is really rarely used, but, training went out on it. value of the vehicle, use of the vehicle, age of the vehicle, miles on it. He said it was worth replacing the transmission, so that was to the tune of 3,000 plus that we just put in that Suburban, so, hopefully she's good to go for another X amount of years. We do intend to use it to pull the trailer, so it is kind of an important vehicle. We would have needed to replace it if we didn't repair it. It's a backup vehicle for transporting students when necessary, so several times a year we use that Suburban probably. I don't know, Kyle, if you used it really at all, like we probably certainly didn't have to use it cross country either, but, so it can be put into service for transportation students, but it's rare. But it'll pull the trailer multiple times this next school year.
Any more questions on the consent agenda? Entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
First and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Did we forget to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Well, you missed it.
Oh, okay.
Motion carries 6-0.
We'll let you do it if you want.
Do we have any talkers, public speakers tonight? Move on to discussion items. Welcome back dinner and staff recognition.
Okay, this is an annual event that the school board provides for the teachers, your welcome back dinner, and then recognition of employees' years of service, starting with 10 years of service and then 5-year increments. For most years, we've just had a catered meal out at the golf course, out at the country club. So I did check with them, and the only date that's available during the time frame we would need to have this would be Friday, the 13th of August. So I hope that works for most all board members. Certainly, hope board members attend that. We've had really a pretty good turnout for the past several years. Kind of made it an expectation that if you don't have some pre-arranged plans, which somebody might have on a Friday night prior to the start of school the next week, we kind of expect you to be there because the school board is buying you a meal, and we're recognizing your companies. So we've had an excellent turnout, I think. So Friday the 13th of August, which that'll be the Friday after our next regular meeting in August. So, but I've contacted Mary's. I hope that was appropriate. And then our staff members to be recognized are Bob Dillaplane for 10 years, Patsy Rasmussen and Maureen Ham, 15 years, and then Louise Meisner, Michelle Blair Sauser, and Ann Goots for 25 years. So at some point, well before next year, we might revisit this policy 40209. In fact, I think I have it on there for policy review, because we have something different at every level, and maybe that's fine. So policy indicates a certificate at 10 years, a plaque at 15, appropriate gift at 20, and then an additional personal day at 25 and every 5 years after. And maybe that's fine. Deb could probably maybe speak to it as a teacher who would have received many of those.
We just added that extra personal day.
I did
last
get
few
that,
years.
yeah, I got that. That was my favorite.
Time away from your kids.
Didn't enjoy the paper or
You
the
don't have your
plaque.
plaque
I don't
hanging on the
I have
wall?
no idea where they're even at, but I did enjoy the post, it's a personal day. Thank you very much.
Spent all day looking for your plaque.
Just don't know where I put that.
At any rate, Kelly and I will get
Throw in a foot massage.
arrange for
That
the
would've been
certificate and the
nice.
plaque. And the plaque in the past couple of years was a crystal apple.
I got that one for retirement, you mean
No,
now
it's
they're?
not a plaque. You got the red one. You got a red one. That's different. So,
They all,
I do like that,
yeah. Okay.
I do like that.
they all break in the same amount of pieces and throw in the trash.
Let's up the ante.
So are we all right with that? Doing Mary's and welcome?
What time is that? Do you have a time set?
We don't, but
Okay.
usually we've had a 5:30 social hour start to 5:30, eat
Okay.
at 6. Mr. Sauser will chirp at about 6:30, and then some will leave at 6 to stay.
Bless you.
policy committee. We met the other day, basically this was on superintendent evaluation, and I guess it's in here, maybe we just wanna
It
wait
is.
and talk about it when we get to.
Well, yes, so items 16 and 17, the policy committee would make a recommendation for those action items. So I guess you can,
Basically, we talked about what we came up with for this policy that we're gonna do it an action item, so we can talk about it now and then again later, or we can wait and do it. Vote on it.
Your call.
I say let's wait.
Yep.
Unless somebody else wants to. Number 11, Building and Grounds Committee, ESSER money. We also met the same night, and Dr. handed out these papers, which are kind of the things that we looked at, went through. Basically, we just kind of, I just laid it out here, so I have it. No, I wrote up mine. Maybe you've got it, Tim. We kind of went through here, went through what we didn't want to do, what we kind of already did, and then kind of the priorities. There it is. Maybe you've got it, Tim.
Did you find it?
I didn't have a pen with you.
I've got it.
Was that, that's not it?
No, there's all the pluses and minuses.
Right there.
No. It's here, I'll
Too many
find
papers,
it.
boss.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, the ones that are circled,
What we were looking at?
yes, is what you wanted me to check into further.
Okay, so the ones we kind of wanted to look into was possible additional teacher, replacing the boilers, the floor scrubber, another floor scrubber, replace one that we have, it's not an additional one. Media center HVAC. Summer school, if we have summer school again next year. All our printers and copiers are getting very expensive, they're getting old, and it costs us a lot to keep them up, just because of their age and how many copies they made. So we can save some money by updating those. The chemical cleanup, what was chemical cleanup?
Well, the storage room, I don't know that it'd be an
Oh, yeah.
allowable expense. I'll find out in Kearney in a couple of weeks, probably. If we can, we've got decades-old chemicals that are stored behind another locked door behind this door. It's not a student access room, so I don't know whether that'd be an allowable expense, but it would be nice to do it the right way, which would be expensive, to have probably a biohazard unit.
What are they?
Come in and, I have no idea. Things that are in 30, 40, 50-year-old jars.
Probably
Make
stuff.
a lot of good stuff out of things.
If you just took it all, you could have it.
Stuff that's
A lot
probably
of
since
chemistry
become
that
illegal
interests
to
me.
possess.
Keep
You come in the dark of night and clean it if you'd like.
We had talked about sometimes they have, where you can take paint and chemicals and stuff, the county or whoever, the extension will do that sometimes. And if that ever popped up, maybe we could contact them and see if we could bring all that stuff to them if they'd take it. So if you hear of something like that coming up, let Dr. Orr know, we'll give him a pair of rubber gloves and he can have at it. And then, science room ventilation, those were kind of the things we put on the priority list. So,
He's gonna look into he's gonna check on bids for AC on the gym. And then also the windows in the old building. To see where, I don't know if you got anywheres on that.
I do have one bid for gym AC, expecting 2 more. So that'll be, I guess, good to know. Because I think people have talked about that every year, probably since the big gym was built, and, it's just never risen to the level of priority for district resources. Well, now we have this free money, this once-in-a-lifetime revenue stream. So it's worth considering, but is it $150,000 or $450,000? We'll find out.
I guess a couple things on here that we pretty much already approved was the 1920 doors and the AC in the ag room. Already approved. So,
We done the
I'm gonna bring that to you probably next month to consider replacing those windows. I do have a bid on that, but, kind of waited on that because we were approving several five-figure, fixes and purchases. So those can wait for your consideration, I think, until next month. That would almost certainly be a ESSER III allowable expense.
I think we're concerned about the boilers, you know, the age of the boilers, it's gonna happen at some point. Right now, if we can use some of those funds to help do that, that would make sense, I guess. It also save us money in the future too, it's something that's gonna, we spend money now, but it's gonna save us money down the road, be more efficient. Where it's not something you're just gonna, buy now and you're gonna have to keep buying it later.
Do I understand this right, the 103,756, that's part of the 518?
It is.
So.
It is. It's not- So you're down to just over 400,000 for that long bulleted list.
Mhm.
And some of those are duplicates, cause
Yeah, they're
correct math, I
duplicated.
excel.
Correct,
Right.
additional
Already
teacher,
kinda figured.
which is part of your ESSER II, but would probably be a good consideration for ESSER III in second year and maybe even a third.
So, there are a couple things on here, like the floor scrubbers that we approve pretty much right away, so they can get them and start using them that aren't major items.
Well, you could, but I'm not, I don't have approval from NDE that it's an allowable expense.
Oh.
I believe it would be, so, because, anything that is for, health of the building, air quality, certainly. A floor scrubber doesn't necessarily help with air quality, so that's one that, I wouldn't feel 100% confident that that would be an allowable expense. That's why I wanted to wait on that. Because that might be a factor in your decision, certainly, on whether it's gonna be district funds or ESSER III. It's an item that needs to be purchased at some point. I mean, we have a usable scrubber, but if we could, use stimulus funds to purchase another one, we'd be good for another decade plus. I would guess it would last that long.
So I guess basically what we're saying is we kinda came down with a list that we think we could stick to, as we get bids in and how much they are and how much it's gonna cost us and how far our money goes, we'll have to pick and choose what we wanna use it for. So, unless somebody has something else they'd like to put on that list that they think would be pretty important. Okay? You want this?
I'll give, yes, I will want
I'll
that
put
back.
it-
Yeah, we'll sit here. And, also along, item 11, and this is kind of part of ESSER III, ESSER III requirement, every school district in the nation is required to create a plan for the safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services. So that's tied to these federal funds. And of course, my question, and the question of most superintendents across Nebraska and thousands more across the country was, why do we need a plan to safely return to school when we had essentially a pretty routine school year all last year? And in Lincoln, they say there's nothing you can do about it. They appealed, Lincoln, NDE appealed to the feds and said, can't we be more targeted with who needs to provide one of these if they were they were in a hybrid or a remote or not, for a period of time. But if they were a school district that was 90+% whatever face-to-face, do they need to produce one of these? And the feds say yes. And so, so we have to produce this plan and it has to be posted on our website. And I've got a worksheet to go through what needs to be included in this plan, and it's gonna be very generic and very, essentially, we're gonna, do what we've always done. We're gonna start kinda how we finished, with even fewer restrictions, because we don't intend to have dividers up in the cafeteria, for example, plastic dividers. And, kids can now drink from the water fountain, among those kinds of things. Well, will we still continue to be vigilant with sanitizing and such? Absolutely, but will we be requiring would be spraying kids' hands when they come over to lunch. You know, I don't think so. I think they can, we just expect students to do that on their own. So it'll be something simple, but so will most every other district. So we're kind of working together, rural superintendents, on what's your plan look like. So it's kind of a little bit of a copy and, you know, change the name just a little bit, because we're all very, very similar set of circumstances.
So they just say you have to have a plan, they don't say what you have to have in it whatsoever?
They do have a worksheet, a checklist for us, that we have to go by. So you did get a notice from Power School last week, for example. I needed to notify our public, and I needed to have a documentation that we notified our public that they could provide input on this plan. And obviously, our public is not too concerned. They trust you, they trust us, that we will return to school safely. But as far as the feds are concerned, we will have a plan for the safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services.
Sounds great.
Our plan is to handle it as
There
it
you go.
comes.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Okay, number 12, summer project update.
Okay, by the end of the week, I believe the wall is the wall's coming down. The end of the week, next week, they'll start to form and pour. And then discussions will get a little more specific and serious about, you know, the handicap ramp and how it will start and the direction it will go, and trying to have minimal disturbance of the concrete plaza, if you will. We don't want to disturb that at all. So ideally, we want the height of the ramp to be at the south end, so right at the top of the steps, essentially. And we believe that we can do that without creating something goofy or too crazy. But so I will share those ideas with Building and Grounds as we kind of start to put that together. And I think the Clausen boys will probably have just the right plan for that. So all the other concrete is done for that bid to Clausen's. We're waiting, however, on the garage foundation. The zoning board couldn't approve our dimensions because we're zoned residential, and as such, we have to have a 15-foot setback along the east side of the garage, and so it won't fit with the dimensions that we like. So we need to be rezoned as commercial. One of the zoning board members told me that schools should reasonably or could be zoned commercial, which has a 0-foot setback, which is what we need. But we didn't fit within the guidelines, so they weren't able to approve it. So it'll go to the council tomorrow, and the council will take action on the zoning board requesting a denial of our permit. But I'll share this information with the city council and see how they vote. This is not a deal breaker for us at all. It will be a bit of a delay, which is fine with Clausen's. So could be another 2 weeks, could be a month. I don't know the process exactly to get us rezoned. I did talk with Madison County, and that's a local jurisdiction to determine that. So, and I had a conversation with the zoning board, and so we could apply for a special permit, but I was told that would probably be denied as well. So I don't know that I'm going to take the time to do that. I think I'd rather get the school zoned as commercial, and then we'd be playing by a different set of rules, which would allow us to build the garage in the dimensions that we want and in the place that we want. So that's the plan for that.
Going commercial, is that gonna change any other rules that we gotta follow, or anything that's
Well,
gonna
I
hurt us
guess-
somewhere else?
I guess I would find out. I don't anticipate that, but it's not, you know, something that.
Don't wanna find out when it's too late.
Yeah, I'll probably find out, but, yeah, I'm optimistic that it'll be fine. Because we don't have a hard and fast deadline for, other than, you know, onset of winter. So, because even if we had that poured, I mean, Mr. Juden in his class is not gonna start on day one, you know, to form walls and try to set trusses and such, so we're fine. I believe we'll be fine with that, so So we had that, track and lights. You saw some equipment's been delivered down to the track from Musco Lighting. So Mr. Schmidt would know some little more specific details on what's gonna be going on down the football and track complex.
Our electrical contractor's supposed to come this week and remove all the poles from the football field. Lights are gonna be going to the city, poles are gonna be disposed of, and then while they're here, they're gonna drill the holes, set the bases for the new ones. They said they like to have a 48-hour cure time on those and then come back, within the next 2 weeks at the end of the month to set the tops and line everything up. Track, have not heard back from our rep yet on when for sure they are coming. We did have a piece of concrete broke that we had to re-pour. Worried about that setting it back, but they said they can put some acid on it that makes it cure faster since it's a small area. And so then they would be able to come and, finish the track at any point in time. But we wanted to get the poles out this week, so they're able to come after this week and redo the track at any point, so.
You said dispose of the poles, they just gonna disappear, cause I'm sure there's somebody out locally that would want them.
They just chop them up and
Really?
take them away for us.
Well, that's a waste.
You want them, James?
No.
No.
I use freestanding panels now, you don't have to dig holes or nothing.
So the one utility pole that was inside the track area has gone away. Kyle called those folks, or Gail did, and they came in a jiffy and took care of that. So, and the pit for the sprinklers, it's been identified where that's gonna be. So, you know, things have been planned and some prep work. Will, you know, I don't know that we've ever been told that your track will be done before school starts or any of that kind of business. Of course, we don't need it, but we don't want heavy construction equipment, that kind of business going on when we're hosting a football game, but, so it will all be done in due time. You do, a few different schools that I've been at have had, circumstances with the construction and the laying of their new tracks. You know, we'll be in communication with them the whole time that they're here, but, we're, you know, lay people as far as that goes, but, with regard to, you know, you don't get the final check until we inspect it and give the thumbs up kind of business. I mean, I think that somewhat goes without saying, but, so there'll be a lot to go on. Yeah, I know we had a whole lot happen in the first several weeks after school got out with concrete and such, but, we'll be pretty busy here yet over the course of the next month to 6 weeks. Nothing like the past few years. When last year at this time, this whole place was blown up.
So we didn't put our valve in for our sprinklers when they were here fixing the flood?
I think they were busy focusing on that than the Van Shell Park flood.
Okay, I'll move on to number 13, energy audit.
So you have that in your packet. It doesn't, and I did visit with individuals at Facility Advocates, specifically Dave Raymond, and he will be prepared to come to a board meeting to visit with you or to visit via Zoom with our Building and Grounds Committee about this audit and plans for moving forward should you so want to do that. But yes, they did indicate that your electrical panel and your boilers are woefully inadequate and out of code. Well, yeah, we probably knew that, but a lot of the information specific to the Energy Star Statement of Energy Performance, I mean, I don't know, shoot, those are just a bunch of numbers, columns and numbers. I guess we need a little help to interpret that. And he said, well, you do show a 95 out of 100 efficiency, but he said that is misleading. Well, okay, I don't know what that means, but, and he said, we're not gonna be here to try to necessarily tell you something, we just wanna educate you. We have worked with Dave Raymond before. He was with Train when we did the elementary. So he's been here. Several of you have met him. But he now works for a different energy company, and they'll also be providing a bid for your boiler replacement, your gym ACs.
So I see here on page 9 under lighting plan, they got to develop a lighting replacement plan for the main gym. Those lights are like 3 years old. why would they recommend replacing the lights
Yeah,
in the gym?
I don't know, they went throughout the whole facility and.
I mean, even
but yeah,
the Tartan gym would replace the lights.
even
in
the
there.
Tartan gym is, well, I think the same age, aren't they? Same
Yeah,
year,
about the
maybe
same
just the year
time.
before, so yeah, I think that would be,
It kinda makes me wonder whether they're just putting stuff in here just to put stuff in here.
that will be an excellent question for them.
I would say you're correct.
Gotta make themselves look like
He's
they're
also the
earning
salesman,
their pay.
remember?
No lighting changes fast, but my goodness.
We should be good there for a while.
So do we need to decide if we want him to come or what?
No, not at this point, but I will probably ask the Building and Grounds Committee, you know, we've got a couple other things to talk about, certainly, but in one of the ESSER three funds, it's maybe, you know, more specific with, where we want, what direction we wanna go with that, but.
Cause I mean, we know about the boilers, I know we've had issues with the electrical in the past, when we did all rewiring
Yeah.
and stuff, you know, we had to make something work, it wasn't up to code then. We
Yeah.
know that the panel's bad, needs to be replaced.
I think it would be, it doesn't hurt for, facility advocates to provide, you know, information with regard to that audit, and to answer questions and just help provide more clarity. So we'll probably set that up between now and, your August meeting.
Okay. Okay, 14, review all these policies, and I'm not gonna go through each one individually. We'll start with 402.09.
And that's your recognition for service of employees, which, I just put that in there to bring to your attention that, what we do for each level of service and that, you know, maybe we wanna consider streamlining that.
We'll put Deb on that, what's she gonna like to have had?
Number three, specifically number three, an appropriate gift for 20 years of service. I mean, who's to determine what an appropriate gift is, I suppose? You know, myself, the administrative team, you know, whatever, but I think we would prefer some better guidance on what an appropriate gift might be and what's it worth, what's an appropriate gift worth? What should we spend?
Well, that's in one of the other policies too, on what we can spend, right? Or that was more on
More-
supper.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it
listed
is one
down
of
there,
them
not
about
to exceed
$100. I think
$50
at the
per
bottom,
month.
it said $1 with $100 on the value of any plaque, certificate, or achievement, or item of value.
Sounds like they like the personal days, maybe we should just get
Yeah.
one of those on there.
Those are gold.
Cheaper than a plaque.
Yeah, they're kinda nice.
They're not probably-
You know,
They're gold.
And I get it, I get it, there's nothing like a paid day off.
Yes.
It's, you know, every year when I stand before teachers and talk about the value to the district and the value to kids each and every day, and when you're not here, learning stops. A sub can't come in and do what you do. So, oh, sorry.
Are you as good as
Unless
substitute
you're
teacher?
Mrs. Jensen, of course. Not,
Too late.
Not every substitute teacher has a 30-year distinguished career and a Crystal Apple approved. So, but yes, that is gold, a paid day off.
For 20 years
So,
of
but
service.
that's the price of a sub,
Yeah.
which is $125
Says we can't pay over 100.
for a plaque. So, at any rate, something to consider, not for this year, it's not relevant for what we're gonna do, you know, next month, but, I might circle back to it next spring when we have a very light agenda.
Okay, I'll go on to 504.19.
Okay, this is an annual requirement for the school board to review your student fees policy. If you remember last year, we added technology to the list on, in policy 50419. But your eyes just need to see it, think about it. And we need to be on record as having reviewed it at least annually. 50801, 02, and 03, I asked to table it because I wanted to get some feedback from our school nurse. And she did provide some valuable feedback on a couple of them was the form that we provide, that is in policy that we provide for the authorization for administration of medication at school was outdated, so we just need to replace that form, and we need to include the specific waiver from the Department of Health and Human Services for families to waive physical examination or visual evaluation requirement. So I will need a motion, and, sorry, let me see which one that is. 102, 3.
Is that for medicine?
Say, so that'll be 50802. So I'll need a motion to revise policy 50802 to include a new authorization for administration of medication in school form. So if somebody wants to make that motion, here's the title of the form, and to include the waiver of physical examination and visual evaluation requirements. So whoever might want to make that motion. I've got all the
I'll
word
make
here.
a motion
right
to.
by.
50802.
I'll second.
50802. Make, what else? The authorization for administration of medication at school to include a waiver of physical examination and visual evaluation requirement.
That's just perfect.
That was hard.
Say that again, I missed it.
I made the motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Go ahead, second it.
Don't make me repeat it.
Frustrated.
Yeah.
Now I'm supposed to resay that motion.
Or your secretary,
How's
will
that?
restate it.
How does that lie in with athletic physicals then?
The what?
Athletic physicals.
What is the what?
If we're waiving that, isn't that done as part of the athletic physical?
We're not waiving it, this is the form that parents would use for, if they want to waive it based on, religious affiliation or health, or health reasons.
So is this a new form that we're approving from what we had?
We've had a waiver, but it's
Right.
not the one from DHHS.
Okay, so we're doing a
Yeah.
different
Just
form.
replace.
Okay, it's been first and second, any more discussion? All right, Deb,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yep.
Myself, yes, motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
50801. We
Those
just
are-
did, and we just was all.
Yeah, they're all good.
50802, 50803, 20202.
So, 20202, I did want to bring your attention to our policy on conflict of interest, because we had some conversation last month. So I just thought it was good probably to see, to look at the language. And, you know, most of this policy, as you recognized, was about a voting board member maybe approving some type of contract or business contract. So something like if we had a family member, a voting board member that sold windows or doors, you know, as we've talked about, okay, or HVAC maintenance. Imagine if we had a family member who worked for Rasmussen's, who we pay anywhere from hundreds of thousands of dollars every month for contracted services for our HVAC or our rooftop units, okay? Or for something as simple as pest control, if you had a family member who provided pest control service, and that's who we were to contract with for our facilities. So most of this, you know, has to apply in the interest of a contract between a business or a service and a voting board member. But it does also address if a board member has an immediate family member who's employed by the school district. And, you know, I know there was some, you know, concern about voting yes or no on salary. Okay, and so, you know, your first paragraph on page 2, I just thought it was good for us all to make sure we recognize this. If a board member's immediate family member is an employee of the school district, the member may vote on all issues of the contract, which are generally applicable to all employees or all employees within classification, and do not single out his or her family member for special action. So it's appropriate for Tim to vote on the umbrella classified wage increase. But a couple years ago, when we identified Patsy specifically for a wage, that was appropriate for Tim, obviously, to abstain on that one. So, that applies to that. So, and then even in the third paragraph, a little bit longer one, but it talks about, how a voting board member or district employee can employ, recommend the employment, or even supervise the employment of an immediate family member if he or she does not abuse his or her official position and make full disclosure of relationship to the board. So, with regard to that, you would want to avoid that, certainly. I mean, I would not want to evaluate, my wife is a kindergarten teacher, for example. Or if I was the principal of the elementary, I would have a high school principal evaluate. So even though it's not prohibited by policy, okay, so, and so I think there's some good language, I think that addresses that. I didn't recognize anything in there that I thought probably should be reconsidered. But I wanted certainly to give the board members a chance to look at that, more closely.
How would a board member ever supervise an employee in the school?
And they wouldn't, unless it's the superintendent, because the superintendent is the only person that you supervise.
Wonder when it's even hidden.
President of the board controls the umpire of the basketball game. Referee.
Umpire?
The basketball game.
I don't think they'll listen to me. We've tried that. All right, 40204.
Okay, and this one similarly, on nepotism, and obviously, much more succinct, but, it does indicate, and certainly, and I think, Dr. Thor, you mentioned, in a rural district, that's certainly sometimes somewhat out of necessity. More than one family member may be an employee of the school district. It shall be the discretion of the superintendent to allow one family member employed by the school district to supervise another family member employed by the district in a non-certified position. So the employment of more than one individual in a family shall be on the basis of their qualifications, credentials, and records. So sometimes it's necessary, certainly not prohibited, but so thought it was reasonable to look at that language too, and to see if there were any thoughts about whether it's appropriate or whether any of that language would need to be reconsidered.
We get in the category of overthinking it now.
Okay? Wanna
I mean,
Go on.
your leadership and good judgment is fine.
Yeah, and that's what you hired me for. I mean, one of those specifically states, it should be the discretion of the superintendent. Now, if I use horrible discretion in your judgment, then that's a whole nother conversation.
Any more discussion on that? Any questions, comments? Okay, number 15, board development, pages 168, 173. I kind of started this conversation last month. We're all equal board members. I just assumed somebody new would step up and start us off every month and kind of take our turns on this. So if somebody else, I'm not gonna assign it to anybody, but if somebody else just wants to start us off every month and, comment, concern, think we're doing a great job at this, just somebody jump in and get us started, I guess.
I guess that's, I'm a new board member, I really would like to, participate in the annual planning session as a board. I don't know how that's been done, I know it's been done in the past, but I think that would be powerful to, have discussion about our policies and whatever else you do to review the vision for our district and our goals.
I think us last year was probably the first year we've pretty much ever done that, set
What,
goals.
is that right?
Yeah, we've really never never been on that.
I remembered hearing about retreats that the boards used to go on when I was a staff member. Is that what you did on retreats or set
I've never
goals?
gone,
You never
gone
did
on
either?
it. I mean, we've had them here,
Mhm.
you know, where we had somebody come in and talk,
Mhm.
but, we've maybe done that. I've maybe done it 3 times over the
Mhm.
9 years I've been on the board. It's not it's not like that we do it every year by any means.
No,
We-
okay.
They recommend you do,
Yeah,
but.
yeah,
but
because.
we haven't done that.
No, when I was on the co-op board, it was an annual deal, it was 2 days. Every winter you'd go and plan out what the plan was and set goals for, you know, the next year, so.
You went somewhere out of town?
A lot of them did, we always stayed down Creek, but yeah, sometimes they'd go to Florida.
Oh, well, okay.
We didn't want
We used to go have board retreats like at
Paid money for
Niobrara
that.
or something like
I've
that.
never done that.
Why do I think that?
A great place for a board retreat would be the State Education Conference in November.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, you're kind of 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. So that's professional development designed specifically for school board members in the state of Nebraska. And so we're there for 2 nights, 3 days. You can easily carve out time to have a quote-unquote retreat, because they do encourage you to get out of your working space when you do plan a retreat. And it's anywhere from a few hours to, yes, something that would potentially be, you know, overnight or multiple days.
How do you do that with a full board? Is that considered a quorum then?
No.
You have to have a
No,
agenda?
yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So, I mean, when you're at, you know, state conference, under professional development, but, you know, that would be an allowable set of circumstances.
What part of November is that in?
That's always the, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday prior to Thanksgiving, so it's week before Thanksgiving.
And that might be a great time because they'll bring new stuff to us or things that we haven't thought about. And that's the time to discuss those things goals for our district that we'd like to think about or discuss. I don't know, I just think that's important to share and discuss, other than here, you know, there's so many things on the agenda to talk about, and think about.
But it all depends upon how many of your board you can get to, you know, if you only have 2 or 3
People are busy,
there,
I totally
it's
get it.
tough to, you know,
Absolutely, absolutely.
to make,
November, right before Thanksgiving, is usually kind of crunch time for
Yeah.
community of Plainview.
But even if you had it on an evening or something for a couple hours,
Mhm.
we can have a special-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
any time of the year, you could do that.
And you can bring a speaker in if you
Right.
want.
Yeah, somebody to facilitate it, that's what we always do, just get somebody to come in, facilitate the whole meeting.
Country clubs available in November pretty easily.
They have the
Have
heat
it
on
out
in
there,
November.
bring somebody in.
I would rather do
Evening.
something where we do it for like 1 day or 1 evening, and then do it 2 or 3 different times, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I can't leave for 3 days, there's no way.
Now, on this, in November, I know that it's 3 days, but can you, as board members, can we pick and choose to go 1 day? Cause is there an agenda?
Yep.
What's, what
Yep,
the
yep.
topics are gonna be? Just-
Details of that'll be coming out really pretty soon.
So
You know,
things
yeah,
that would
so-
interest it,
Yeah.
maybe 1 day out of the 3 is
Yeah,
what?
if somebody can come down and make it a day, and, because there'll be a variety of, little, professional development workshops, and so, anywhere from 45 to an hour and a half, you know, sessions, and, it could be well worth your time to go down and take in 3 of those.
Mhm. Maybe that's a possibility, if some of us could just go 1 day, or all 3 days, or whatever.
Pick one day, we'll try to get everybody there.
Yeah, or even if we all can, if we could, like I could go on day 1 that you guys can, or,
But you could set out your goals and stuff like that there.
no, we couldn't, but we could go and get some information.
Yeah.
And then come back, I don't know. We don't have to make a decision today, but that's something that I thought was
Well, that
a
would
good
be-
way to strengthen our board as a team,
Mhm.
you know, working together and.
That would be a good time to do it after state convention, because then you can discuss what the meetings you went to are still fresh in your mind.
Mhm.
And if somebody can't make it, you can have that,
Yeah.
you know, share those
And
ideas.
you don't have to go to all 3 days, I mean, if it works for you to go to any.
So maybe sometime in December is very busy too, but we can do weeknights. Maybe we should have it on a weeknight in December, right after, you know, after state school board or some point every year.
Yeah, I think while it's fresh in your mind like that would be a good time.
I think so too.
Otherwise you'll forget.
Maybe we could discuss this more after you get the agenda of the topics or what's being
Yep, yep.
presented.
Yep, you should receive information from the NASB as well, but I'll, most definitely, be keeping track of the details of that, and as more and more revealed, generally it's sometime late September, it's, here's the program for the entire conference, so.
I
you'll
did talk to
receive
Vicki
that from me,
Peterson
sure.
about it, cause she said she's attended these, that they're very worthwhile, very helpful and informative and,
They have a lot of different topics. They have, some of them, there's kids that come in and give the
That's what she
presentation.
said.
Students.
Mhm.
And some of them are schools that give presentations and things like that, and then there's your state people that give, lawyers, there's several lawyers.
We had a student 2 years ago, Austin Shook, was at state school boards, making a presentation to school board members.
fabulous. Anyway, that's what I garnered from this, is how to make our board a strong, cohesive team, to collaborate on things.
Something good to take out of that, we would have never talked about it if we wouldn't be reading this, so.
True.
Make a note of that, so we bring it back up
Yep.
again.
Make a note that Deb led this discussion, so.
Deb would like credit.
Next 6 months, I'm free. No way.
Twice a year, twice a year. Anybody else have anything they wanna add out of here yet before we move on? Okay. Action items. Discuss and take possible action on revising policy 504.15, smoking, drinking, drugs, to add random drug tests.
I had an idea that I thought about, just driving around in the tractor. I like the idea of random, but like, I guess what I was wondering is, why can't we have it be like, it's random, like we could do it anytime we want to, but when we do it, they pull on the whole body. You know what I mean, the whole extracurricular people. And we might not ever do it, but you just have that threat out there. Cause I don't like the whole random thing, because I just feel like I have trust issues. I don't trust anything I hear and half of what I see. And I just have a feeling that, or I just don't like the idea that somebody's gonna be in charge of pulling a kid's name out of the pool, and they can see that first, but they could always just go in and pull another kid if it's their kid or their nephew or whatever.
We talked
So-
about that, exactly, Chance, cause I was concerned about that too. About somebody saying, well, you're just picking on my kid, cause they were randomly chosen twice that
Exactly.
year. But, and you can address that, this Ohio base, they do all of that, our hands are,
They pick the names. and-
they do it all up in Ohio, it has nothing to do with any of our staff members. Cause that was one of my concerns too.
And they pick a code, not a name, they pick a number.
So they never see their name, it's just a number that they see,
So
correct?
then you guys
Cause we
don't
would
see the
send them,
number, or you
we
guys see
would
the
send
number?
them all the names of all the kids and activities, and they would just send back, this is who we're testing. Then we go get those kids, test
And those
them,
names are in a
and send them
number?
back to them. Mhm.
Right.
Yep. So it eliminates
So who all
that.
sees the email that gets sent to you, I guess? Like,
I guess I don't,
You know what I mean?
But
when,
the email's a number though, right? It's not even a name.
when we looked at, who would be doing it, I talked about, cause if we were to do that, we would have to get trained on how to collect everything and then mail it out to that company. So we were looking at myself being trained, Jen being trained, Mr. Peter being trained, I think, and then Beth would be trained. So we'd have 2 males, 2 females that would be able to collect it and send it in for that. I guess with the other part of it, having it where we test everybody, the only downfall to that in my mind would be if they knew that they all got tested on this date, that, well, we're gonna be good for a long time, and there might be some that go out and make that choice then right after that. So.
But that can still happen with the random thing though too.
Can too.
I mean,
Not to mention the expense, I mean, we could afford.
but you could just, I just feel like, I personally feel like the threat just being there, that you're gonna get, basically you just say like, you're gonna get tested at some point. And you don't ever have to actually test them. And they might, just the threat alone might keep them clean for the year. You know what I mean? Or maybe the first year you gotta test everybody, crack down for a year or two, and then you can lax up a little bit. Just like a speeding ticket, like, when I speed down the Pearson Road, I got picked up, now I don't speed anymore, but pretty soon that's gonna wear off in my head and I'm gonna start speeding again. And I'll get picked up again. Just,
Or you want to test everybody?
I wish we could I personally wish we could test everybody in the whole school, like not just extracurricular, but I know we can't do that, so. I'm
You
just.
can legally, but,
We can legally or we
yeah,
can't?
you can.
As long as you do everybody.
You can randomly select, you don't have to be in an extracurricular activity for,
Oh, really?
is what I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, yeah.
So everybody's name can go in that list?
Cause I think that would be a good thing, cause I personally guess I feel like some of the, like when I was in school, the kids that weren't in extracurricular activities were probably the ones that did a little bit more shady stuff than the kids that were playing sports or whatever.
What's your thoughts on administration?
To test them too.
I think so.
I think test the whole, staff too, maybe.
School board too?
Sure,
Sure.
I'll take a test.
I'll be wherever you're going.
Yeah, exactly.
Sunday morning after.
I've never done a controlled
Right
substance.
before church.
Sunday morning after the golf course?
It's just alcohol.
Yeah.
So what can you do though to a kid that's not an activity for a punishment? You can't do anything to them, can't kick them out of anything.
Turn over their parents, right?
They do that, but that doesn't mean anything's gonna happen. When you can't kick them out of school or put them in detention or anything like that.
So can you, the kid that's in sports, does that get passed on to like the law enforcement, like they get a MIP or whatever off of the controlled substances or not?
No, because we don't get results immediately, so it's, it would be for substance that would still be in their system. What is it, 48 hours, we get the test results.
A negative test would be back within 24 hours, and then a positive test would take 48 to 72 hours to get back. But the reason for us testing is to try and keep kids from doing these things, not so much turn it over to law enforcement and make sure that it's on the record for the rest of their life. So it doesn't get turned over to law enforcement, but we would require them to meet with a drug and alcohol counselor and go through an assessment with them at the expense of the parent.
And so you could mandate that to the non-extracurricular kid too then, right? I mean, essentially, or is that against the law to do that?
Essentially, you could, yeah.
You can mandate somebody to take drug and alcohol counseling at their own expense. You can force them to pay for that.
We'll see with the extracurriculars, I know that we can just because.
That's
it's
what I was gonna say,
privileged.
that's all, if they're not involved in anything.
That's my
That's
question
what I'm
too, is
Yeah,
that
then
if you
wouldn't-
expand this to everybody who's not involved in extracurriculars anyway, I mean, if somebody's a problem and they've got a problem anyway, they're probably gonna keep having, it doesn't matter how many times they test positive. Probably, they really don't have any incentive to stay clean, and if they can't pay for the for the counseling, if they don't have the ability to do that, or they refuse to take it, what are we saying here? What course of action do we take if they're in violation of our policy?
Yeah, but, the premise is a deterrent, so the kid can say no, under peer pressure somewhere, I mean, that's the whole premise, so I don't, everything else behind it. You
Okay.
can get around anything,
Yeah, I
with
know.
a good attorney, you can be out the door.
Compared to the conversation we had 2 weeks ago, anyway, we're kind of pendulum now swinging the other way here, isn't it? 'Cause you wanted to do testing once a week. Mike, you had the idea that maybe we should only do it every 2 weeks, or even less often than that. Now we're talking, we wanna do the entire school, possibly, all at once.
I think it's a lot of cost, everybody's school, that was, something that came up last month, was the cost of it all.
The cost of it, and not to mention
Or
the
you're
number
only
of
gonna see them
samples
every
you'd
2
have
weeks.
to be handling too, the organization of that.
It'd be quite a
Undertaking.
pretty organized day to do
I think
all
we'd be the
that.
only school district in
That's
the
what
state
I
of
know.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Or maybe the country that would do that, so.
I don't like the whole random idea. I mean, I like a little bit better that they're outsourcing it, but then there's still only 4 people that see that email. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I think you gotta trust your administrators, but I see what you're saying.
I'm not saying I don't, but I can just see public saying, a parent, like, oh God, my kid got picked on.
If one kid got it twice, you know,
Yeah.
something.
Oh, so you're thinking
That was the
that the
reason.
administrators, or somebody changed it, that
Yeah.
received it from Ohio,
I
like
can
some
see a
parents might
parent
say
saying that.
that, mhm.
But that was our reason to go with Talisman.
Yeah, we tried to wash our hands of it completely, right?
We went with, the company's called Safe Sport, correct,
Yep.
Kyle, right? Maybe you wanna expand maybe upon that just a little bit.
Yeah,
on
tell them
that,
the
tell them about
process.
the
Cause
process.
initially, what we had talked about was us doing everything in-house, so I mean, we'd be collecting the sample, we would be running the test and doing all of that. Liability was one of the things that came up, a lot of what you said, is your test accurate, is what you're doing accurate, you're doing it in a school, you're not a scientist, do you really know what you're doing? So that's where Safe Sport came in, it's a company out of Ohio, where they send the test out to, or they don't send the test, but they send the collections out to us, and they send us the names of the kids that need to be, that were randomly selected, so we would take them, get their, sample, mail that back to them, and then at that point, they would do the testing of it in the laboratory. They also split the sample, so if a parent wants to appeal it, they can also take that and send it to another laboratory of their, of whoever they pick to retest it if they choose to, if it comes back positive. If it's a negative, they throw it out and it's done. But really, everything is done through them. All we supply them with are all the names of kids that are involved in stuff. They send back whenever we wanna test who and how many.
You know, one way around what you're concerned about is, you know, if a kid comes up positive, we could have a policy that if they come up positive, they gotta be tested quarterly, any annual basis within any time in the quarter, but they get thrown right back in the hopper.
And I have.
And if you make it that way, then that would deter the public, cause if a kid tested positive, well, he's gonna get tested
What if he
again.
tested negative and he gets tested, you know?
Well,
Two.
that's something you
If he
need to
gets
talk
tested
to him
negative,
about, but.
what?
Like say, cause like Dr. Thor's saying, if he gets tested positive, he gets thrown right back in, you know, which makes sense, I agree with that, but like, what about the kid that get tested negative? You know, some parents like, well, my kid's got picked 4 times, and he's tested negative every time, or whatever.
Well, that was
Which-
kind of the concern too, and then I think communication to the parents, exactly the process. You know, your kid, and tell them your kid might be chosen. That's not in our hands. They have the numbers, each kid assigned to a number. Ohio randomly picks it, we do not. I mean, I think communication's gonna be the key if we decide to do this, so that
Yeah,
it's
come
all
back to the
spelled out.
premise. It's a deterrent, so if the kid gets tested, he goes right back in, he can get tested again, well, that could be anybody's kid. It's a hell of a
Yes.
deterrent,
Yes,
you know? I don't see what's wrong with it myself. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but if you look at the process of how it's working out, it kinda takes care of itself.
My other question is about them drug dogs. When you have them come in, do they like sweep the whole school, or do they just go by the lockers and like, do they go up to the personnel and the kids, or?
Yeah, we randomly selected a couple of classrooms, otherwise it's, the general areas, hallways, locker room. But, kids stay in the classrooms during that time period, so we kinda have a, you know, lock-in circumstance where just, you know, don't let any kids come out, bathrooms.
So essentially, a kid could have that stuff on his pocket and never get caught.
Essentially, yes. Yeah.
So I'm asking, why can't you let that dog walk around and smell the kids?
Well.
Is that against the law?
No.
You know what I mean?
No, it's not, and when we do select a room though, somebody having something on their person is a whole different set of circumstances than if it's in their backpack or in their locker. So we have kids come out of the room, the dog goes in. And that's not in a previous school, kids could carry their backpacks and all their materials to classrooms, they don't get to do that here, so that wouldn't be, you know, so much realistic here, but if a dog hits on something, you know, the handler knows, you know, that State Patrol manages it. You know, so, and we've only had the dog once, and I do think that that's probably a good thing to randomly, a time or two
Yeah, I
or
like
3 a
the
year,
dog deal.
you know, to come through, so,
And they
I
don't
think
know
it's
any
fine.
names.
I need to, I need to correct something that I misspoke, you know, earlier. So I was thinking, you know, students there's athletics and there's activities, and so there are two specific Supreme Court cases that authorize random drug testings for those in athletics and those also in activities, non-athletic activities, so your FFA, your music, your FCCLA and such. But the court has not authorized the random drug testing, suspicionless random drug testing of all students. So that is not, that's not been authorized, and it's not advised by our legal counsel. So I was thinking of activities beyond athletics that was also authorized, so I did misspeak earlier.
answers that question completely.
And to go back, Thor, you brought up a positive test. I have it written in there right now that if a kid tests positive, we test them every month for a year then. And then at the end of that year's time, then they come off that list and just go back into the random pool.
Yeah, I think that's a good deal.
I think it's good for the board to, well, I would like to see the board approve something, and then we are reasonable enough, and I think flexible enough to make any adjustments if we need. There may be some public feedback that doesn't like it, but you make decisions all the time that a minority members of your stakeholders, of our stakeholders, might not agree with.
It's been in the paper and on the agenda, there's nobody here with public comment tonight, speaking up for it or against it, so, you know, if they were really upset about it, they could be here.
I think you guys are getting the wrong vibe, like, I am not upset about doing it, I just don't,
No, I don't think.
One
I
thing
think-
I just
would
want to
say
make
I
sure
would
is
say
like,
public, if the public.
like somebody be like, well, Wyatt drew every random drug test, so like, how's that, you know what I mean, like, or whatever.
Yep, no, I get what you're saying.
That was our concern
And
too,
that-
that's.
We had the same concern, and that's one of the reasons why we, I guess, started pushing towards outsourcing it. Take the possibility and the liability anyway off of our administrators and off of our school. I mean, Jim, you had a concern last meeting anyway about the liability of this, well, this takes that away.
I agree with you.
It takes the pressure off of Kyle from handling the samples anyway, and not to mention storing them. He doesn't have a refrigerator full of pee anyway in his office for God knows how many weeks.
That's gonna be
Acquisition,
eliminated.
new fridge.
You know, but,
Not Mountain Dew.
Well, and if you take them out of the draw, if they've been selected, you know, they might go, I lucked out and passed this time, now I know I'm good for 4 months. I don't have to worry about it because you can't get selected again for X amount of time, so I can go do whatever I want until I'm back in again. Well, this way, they're right back in again.
right, and then, you know, we're kind of just dipping our toes in the water here as it is anyway, and this kind of takes a lot of the pressure anyway off of trying to, you know, figure this thing out, you know, from scratch. If we just outsource this and saves money.
And we can change it at any time.
Exactly, let our administrators do their job anyway, let's just go ahead and get something passed anyway, and then let them, adjust now that they can be done.
What does that save sport charge? Is it like a monthly or yearly thing?
Right now, last I talked to him, it was $30 a test, whereas if we were to order it ourselves and go through Nurse Beth, it'd be right around the 20 mark. So to outsource everything, it's gonna increase $10 per test.
But it's only per test, like, it's not,
Yeah.
it's like if we only test 12 kids, it's.
Yeah,
$20
it's
like
only
a strip.
$360.
They don't charge anything for storing it or splitting it or doing the random name, food names?
Sounds like a good deal.
So your recommendation is 2 kids every time, a week or 2?
I would like to
every week, or-
start with 2 kids a week, I mean, and if we get through the first quarter and everything's going well, we can go 4 kids every 2 weeks, or, you know, we might get to a point where we're just testing once a month. You know, but I would like to start, like Chance said, having that in the back of their mind that each week you can get pulled at any point in time.
Okay.
It's just first reading.
Yep, I'll make a motion to revise policy 504.15 on first reading as read.
I second that.
Okay, so first and seconded. Myself, yes, Wyatt?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Jim?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Jim. Yeah, that's what I'll be calling you, Dim.
Okay, we're on 17, right? Discuss and take possible action on revising policy 302.05, superintendent evaluation. Okay, we went through this, committee had a meeting on this also, I guess we already shared that, but, basically this policy is what we came up with in that meeting. What's in the gray is kind of what we changed, took out or put in. I think we kind of all talked about this in the past. I don't think there's much in here new that wasn't in here before. Other than maybe that last gray one where after we evaluate it, the president will take that evaluation to the superintendent sometime within 3 weeks, 2 weeks prior to the next meeting, and give it to him. We didn't put the evaluation form, the specific one that we were going to use in there. That way, if a year from now we decide we don't like this one, we wanna go something else, we don't have to change the whole policy to do it. It just has to be, approved evaluation form by NASB, so. So it's just a
And-
process. This was kind of a timeline for what months we start and finish. We start September and end in December, start November, or October.
And you said approved by NASB, it's NASB's form has to be approved by NDE, the department, yeah, just to clarify.
It's something basically compile and the one together at a closed session.
Instead of turning it all into the secretary.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Everybody's a part of it.
as part of it, we stand by your comments, explain them anyway, and we compile one.
And you don't have in here, the one thing we talked about too is on the comment section, we had talked about that at least three of the 6 members had to agree that it needed to be added as a comment. That if just 1 or 2 board members thought that, whatever the comment was, that it wouldn't go in there. That's kind of what we came up with as a committee. And that is not, he didn't put that in.
Well, it's that can be, well, yeah, I didn't put that in, but, that can certainly be added. That would be just something procedural, I think, that you would lead in your discussion on whether you feel comfortable, being every individual board member, feel comfortable, signing the final document, which would indicate, a level of agreement in all the language on there. And so if, a short majority, if that's the number that you would choose as board, this is our one document from the board, because I work for one board. So that could be in there, Mr. Shop's right, I don't know that it needs to be, but.
Well, I just don't want us to every year we sit down to do this, we have to have a discussion over again. Somebody wants something put in there and nobody else does, and we have an argument whether it goes in or not. So if it's in policy, it's cut and dried, it's the same every year. It's up to all of us as a group whether we want it that way or not. So, I know, we talked about that in our committee, about having it be 3 people or more, I think it should be put in there, that's half. So, it's not majority necessarily, but it's half. We figured if it was half, it was a concern, so.
I kinda like it in the policy, so we are reviewing every year, how did we do that?
So a minimum of 3 board members must agree on evaluation language.
Yes,
On
for it to be in
comment, on
the
the
final.
comment part of it.
Okay.
For it to be in the final.
On evaluation comments.
You guys all right with that? I mean, if you're all against it, there's no sense putting it in.
I'm okay.
Okay, so can we still make the motion to approve
Yep.
this with that added?
Yep.
We need to put that in motion?
Yep, I can, and, let's see, it's first reading anyway. So, but yeah, I'll add that and have that in your packet with that additional sentence.
Or we can just wait to,
You
have
technically
next
could.
month be first
You
reading.
technically could, because you don't need this in effect until the September meeting. Because in October, well, the October meeting is when the documents will go to individual board members. The evaluation will go to individual board members.
So what you wanna do? Wait a month, or you wanna amend this one?
I'm fine with it, just amending this one and
Okay.
get it over with.
Okay. You wanna make that motion?
Go ahead, I'll second it.
We got off on that last time.
You wanted to change it.
I'll make the motion to revise policy 30205, including 3 board members, take the majority of 3 board members to change, or to add a comment to the evaluation.
Final evaluation.
I'll second that.
Okay, Chance seconded it. Okay, it's been first and second, any more discussion? Jim, I'll go with you first this time, so.
Yep.
Deb? Myself, yes. Chance?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Number 8, 18, discuss and take possible action on revising policy 103, equal educational opportunity.
So action items 18, 19, 20, and 21 have the same sentence added to them.
Can I go back just
Yes.
a second? We didn't approve an evaluation form, do we have to vote on that?
That's the
Yeah,
one
you
we
do that.
This is the one we choose, do we have to
As
do
a
an
whole
action
group.
item to do it? Or can we just have you send it in, get it approved, and we're done?
No, let's, we'll put it on next month. You could approve it tonight, but it wasn't listed as a specific action item, so that'd give you another month to look it over. But then I'll add that as an action item to use the NASB superintendent evaluation instrument.
You don't have to print us all off a fourth copy of this.
Okay, I'll say, see last month's copy in your packet. So 18 through 21, as a result of LB 451 passed by the unicameral, so you probably, I'm sure you noticed this as you were looking through your packet, the underlined section in each of these new policies, 18, 19, 20, and 21, includes skin color, hair texture, and protective hairstyles as language that is included now in can't discriminate based on, race, color, religion, national origin, and now skin color, hair texture, and protective hairstyles. So required by state statute, so 18 through 21 all add the same line to update these policies.
We can make one motion.
I do each one.
Do each separate?
I would just do each one.
Okay. I'll make a motion to revise policy 103 as written.
Second.
Okay, it's been first and second, any discussion? Self, yes, Wyatt?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
I'll make a motion to revise policy 40201 as read.
Second.
First and second, myself, yes, Deb?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Make a motion to revise policy 404.06 and 404.18 as read.
I'll second. Second. And first and second, any discussion? Wyatt?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Self, yes, motion carries 6-0.
Is that 21 too?
21 as well, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to revise policy number 501, objectives for equal education opportunities of students as read.
Second?
First and second, any discussion? Myself, yes, Deb?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Okay, we're down to number 22, correct?
Yes.
It's the same type of deal? Like you or not?
This one is slightly different, not mandated, but you can see that second paragraph on your copy that's underlined, that's added in classroom environment, which says, all items on display in the classroom, such as posters, pictures, banners, charts, signs, or flags, must be related to the curriculum. Items unrelated to the curriculum or that may cause a disruption to the learning environment are prohibited. Staff members are expected to request the building principal's approval for display of items that may not meet this standard. This is not an issue in our school, it's an issue in other schools across the country. This is a reaction by our NASB policy service, just to try to protect us from somebody, a teacher posting something in their classroom that's not related to their curriculum that could provide a disruption to the classroom environment. And you can probably think of 100 things that a teacher could do that would do that. We don't have any teachers that are motivated to do that, and if they were, we don't need a policy for the building principals to go say, that's inappropriate to be displayed in your classroom, go ahead and take it down. And I can't imagine that they would say, you can't make me, there's no policy. However, this new language would cover you for that, and it would authorize them, and it would leave a teacher who wants to post something that is a disruption, it would leave them with no recourse.
So, like Robin Reed has a picture of
Larry
the
Bird.
bass Larry Bird on his wall. Some kid
Yes,
says, I
the
don't like
Magic
that, you gotta
Johnson
take
fan
it
says,
down.
yeah.
Is it gonna create problems the other way too?
Well, I'm
Yeah.
thinking like holiday decorations.
Yeah.
That, as an elementary teacher, I'm thinking,
So, and of course, teachers have personal items on display, family
Yes,
pictures and that.
yes.
Okay, that doesn't cause a disruption, and so, I don't think Larry Bird causes a disruption, and the evidence we have is that he's been hanging there for 15 years, and he's never been a disruption yet.
But I want it to stay that way. I don't want some smart aleck kid to come in and
Yeah.
say, I don't like you, so I'm gonna make you take that down.
Yeah.
You know, policy
And-
says you can't have it, it bothers me.
I would tell that kid, I'm sorry.
Well, it's gotta be up to the discretion of the building principal, doesn't it?
Yeah, says they can approve
Yeah.
it.
So
Yeah.
if he or she thinks it's okay, then that kid's null and void then at that point. I'm pretty sure this is all just trying to keep away like having a big old sign that says BLM or something.
Yeah,
like
I'd be
that.
on this for Confederate flag or something like that.
That could be in history.
Which you could do in your social studies class. You know, but obviously within reason, it's part of it, you know, if you could.
Yeah, I was just trying to look at the other side of it. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's gonna cause more problems out here in rural America
Yeah.
than it helps.
But I also, if you put this language in, yes, I wouldn't want us to be put in a position for somebody to say, I want, yes, you just strip your family picture off the wall. I mean, because it's not curriculum related, that, you know, that wouldn't cause a disruption. And again, Chance, I'd like that you trust your administrators to make that decision on whether it's a disruption or not.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to, is this a whole new thing, like adopt policy 607.10 for the classroom environment
We're just altering it, we're not.
as
As
read,
read.
right?
Good enough. Good enough.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been first and second, any more discussion? Deb?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yourself, yes, Wyatt?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. 23, discuss and take possible action on revised building handbook changes for 2021-2022.
Well, rather than, spending too much time, maybe going page by page, principals can certainly highlight any language change that is significant. I mean, there's always tweaks and adjustments, but that wouldn't, necessarily throw anybody off in the routine operation of the school. So, we maybe wanna start with Mrs. Hudson in your elementary handbook, that she's prepared.
There was not a lot of changes that was made to what Heather established last year. One of the things that was worded in here is when students report to school, their parents are expected to, be there with them or send a note. That typically doesn't happen, usually Patsy reaches out to them one way or another, so, just kinda change the language on that. There was a little confusion on people who choose to pay their lunch accounts online, so just kind of clarified that a little bit, because there is a fee for people who choose to pay online. So just clarified that, and that pretty much sums up the changes that were made. There were not very many.
Is this working?
So does this mean like, it says you can't drop your kid off before 7:45, but does that mean at 7:45 the doors are open then and they can go in, or how's that work?
They can go in for breakfast at 7:30, and then there's walking clubs, so if your child chooses to participate in either one of those two things, then they can get in, but otherwise, we're asking parents not to bring their kids earlier than that.
But at 7:45, I'm asking for myself personally, because, so at 7:45, I kick the kids out of the door, they can walk up there and go in, they don't have to stand there for another 10 minutes, because it just seemed like last year when I watched, there was a lot of days that it opened at like 5 minutes till, or, it was sporadic. Same
I
with
think-
same with when they get released out of school, it's like, it would seem like I feel like I was running late one day, get there and I gotta wait 5 minutes, you know what I mean, and the next day I think I'm early, and he's popped out already. And that's all, I just feel like sometimes there's not a lot of consistency, and that's just my opinion as a elementary kid's parent.
And I think the bells to let kids in did ring at 7:55, so the time that between the 7:45 and 7:55, the kids do wait outside till the bell rings.
They don't need to be there at 7:45 though. You just
And the
can't.
point for that is supervision.
Yes,
There's
that
nobody
is
to
correct,
watch
yeah.
them if you have a bunch of kids showing up at 7:30, there's no.
No, I get that, I
Yeah.
just, if it's at 7:45, I guess my question is like, cause, like, say I got a meeting I wanna be at 8 7:05, I need to drop my kid off at 7:45 so I can get there. You know, I don't feel comfortable sometimes just leaving a 6-year-old stand outside, you know.
No, I agree. But I think if I was in your shoes, I would let him go to breakfast that morning at school.
Yeah, but
That opens at
you
7:30.
don't even know my kids.
Oh.
That's like, no,
But
no.
there, how about walking club?
Walking club?
A lot of kids love the walking
Yeah.
club. She
Don't
has
bring
a
a
hard,
rope.
huge group.
Feel
I
like
mean,
we're-
at least you know they're safe, you know what I'm saying? If you have to be somewhere else, that's just, you know they're safe.
I guess some of the variance would've came from our protocols at the start of school too.
Yeah.
Cause when school started last year, we had certain doors to enter and it only opened at 7:55 and we checked temperatures. Then by the time we got to February and March, that's when we opened back up and we could move it back to 7:45. So there was a little bit of variance there. I can see where it's coming from.
I guess I personally thought it got worse after we opened it up, you know, about the mask. It seemed like it was way more, sporadic. I don't know, what do you think, Jeremy? You were dropping kids off at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sporadic at times.
Well, it's not gonna be
No, I get it.
perfectly
It's not-
consistent, but yes, I mean, we definitely wanna provide options for families who do have that early assignment, have to get to work. Kids can always come and eat, and they can sit and eat breakfast, you know, for 15, 20 minutes, but they hustle over to the walking club, which they love. Yeah, which we definitely want to avoid is, I gotta drop my kid off at 7:30, they don't need breakfast, walking club doesn't start till this time. We just can't have kids trickling in the building into classrooms.
No, I
Start at
totally get
7:30 in the
that.
morning. Yeah, so, we're not maybe 100% to the minute. We would be a lot closer after school. I mean, the only thing that where that might be is if there's a circumstance in the classroom where, somebody's maybe not ready to go right away, or whether there's a little conversation in the hallway or something, which again would be somewhat random and not routine, because we have a pretty strict bell schedule at the end of the day.
Isn't
that
there a bell
releases-
system in the
yes,
morning too?
bus kids
Yes.
and walkers,
Yeah.
and then kids that are picked up, by parents. So, we do our best to be consistent, but, yeah, there will be exceptions to perfect consistency.
The only thing I think, I'm not sure it's the bell system, but if inclement weather would be nicer if you opened up to the public, and so like my kid doesn't have to sit out there 7 minutes in the rain or whatever, cause.
Oh, they do, don't they? At least they used to.
Yep.
Yeah, they
I
come and
watched
sit in
them
the
sit out
hall.
there in the snow and rain, for sure.
Yeah, I watched them stand, not necessarily snow and rain, but like freaking -12 or whatever, you know.
I
Oh.
should've called off school then.
Well, unless things change,
That means February you wouldn't
I'm not
have-
sure what the temperature is, but there is a set temperature that those teachers let the kids in, or whoever has duty. And if it's raining and they're supposed to also be in, and they're, trust me, as a teacher, as a former teacher, I wanna be inside too. I'm gonna bring those kids in because I don't wanna. And they do have a set temperature and it's over 0. I mean, what is it, 10? Or what is it?
Miss
There-
Betsy knows. Miss
Yeah,
Betsy's in
that's
charge.
a question.
There is a set temperature that the kids can go outside for recess and be outside to wait for to come inside. I mean, they keep it consistent to that, so there isn't any questions. If you have duty, you don't wanna be out in the rain either or in the cold, so you're gonna bring those kids in quick too.
So there's a parent or somebody out there at 7:45.
I think it was 7:50 in the past, pre-COVID.
Yeah, I can't tell you the
And that was
specific
just on
time.
the east and west
East and both
entrances,
ends.
there was never anybody, because the only reason people used the middle entrances was to go to breakfast.
And it's also blocked off to vehicles because that's where the buses are coming through at that time.
So are those middle doors open then? The kids that go to breakfast just walk right in?
So they do a good job at trying to be consistent with numbers and.
I'm just a perfectionist, you gotta understand, see how I walked in literally at 7:01 or 7 o'clock. I go everything right down to the minute, so that's just how I roll.
That's a good way to roll.
No, it's probably not, I'm
It's
always
not?
just dead on time, I'm
Yeah.
never early.
High school wise, I had a few more changes to start. Entering and leaving the building, I put in there, that there's not gonna be open campus for lunch right now. I did talk with Subway today, and they were looking at the possibility of kids being able to order online, and they would deliver to the school so they could pick them up and still have that option. Since there have been a few concerns brought up to me, but we could make that available. But right now, I wanna keep kids, here over the lunch hour. Absenteeism, I changed a little bit of the language, so we were consistent between elementary and high school. And then one thing I added was if a student acquires over 20 absences in a school year, they're automatically enrolled in summer school. So that way, kids that feel like there's no consequence for missing more days of school, they get to come back during the summertime and make up those classroom hours that they're missing out on. Tardies, I was handing out detentions like hot candy last year, because it was a detention every 3 tardies, so now we're doing in-school suspensions for every 10 tardies. So that way it gives them a bigger leadway, because you shouldn't get to 30 tardies in a school year or in a semester is what I do, so, I changed the language in that a little bit. Homework policy, all I did in there was change that we're gonna have activity slips, so when a student's gone for an activity, or if a student's gone when they're sick, when they come back, when they're sick, when they come back, they have to take that, homework slip, go get their homework from the previous day, and then have that turned in the next day. So that way they know exactly what they missed out on. And then activities, we're gonna do that before we go, so say there's an activity on Friday, you'll get that sheet on Monday, fill it out, turn it into your sponsor when you go, and it has to be signed off by the teacher that you got your work done. So trying to eliminate some of our missing assignments and chasing kids down at the end of quarter, and trying to put a little bit more ownership into our kids. That was a teacher, staff meeting that came up with that, so it was a good ad, I thought. Testing dates were all changed. I added some language into the dress code that the teachers asked be changed and put in there, so I did that. Cell phones and headphones, we didn't have anything in there about cell phones and headphones previously, and teachers wanted something. I still am along the belief that teachers can have their own policy within their classroom of how they wanna handle that. But what I did do is make a consistency on violations, so first violation, students get the device back at the end of the day. Second violation, it's turned into the office, parent comes and gets it. Third violation, parent has to come and get it, and over the next 2 weeks, they turn it into Tammy and can't have it during the day. And then fourth violation, no more cell phones or headphones. So I have that part. Teachers also talked about student planners and using that as passes, so that way they can see how many times a student gets out of the classroom throughout a day. So that way, if a student wants to leave the classroom, they'll have a planner that's provided to them by the school. And then each day, a teacher has to give their initials whenever they leave their classroom. So that way, teachers are able to see how many times they leave the classroom. And they're not able to leave the classroom unless they have their planner with them. And then water bottles, we had a lot of kids bringing in cans, Monsters, all that stuff over the previous year. So we're gonna go back to a clear water bottle is what will be used within the school, and trying to eliminate some of those caffeinated drinks and things that aren't the best for your health system. So we got some great water filters here in the building, and they are more than welcome to use those hourly after work.
Guess my kid's already got 10 water bottles, now we gotta go buy a clean one.
I'm sure she has a clear one, I've seen.
The only thing I don't like is the whole not going off campus lunch, I guess, myself. And I'm surprised that like Roadrunner and them aren't kind of complaining, because that's gotta spark their noon business, you know, dollars wise and stuff. Again, I always thought it was a nice thing when I was in school. As soon as you hit sophomore year, you could go down, you don't wanna eat at the cafeteria, you could go down there.
Was it open last year at all with
Yep.
COVID? So I can't say I ever saw a kid
I did.
cross the
I see
highway
them
all year long.
Must only come at the right time, Mike.
Apparently not.
Is that something you reevaluate from year to
Yep.
year? Like you said, for now, it's closed.
Yep, cause I mean, one of the biggest things, if there were something to happen at school over the lunch hour right now, I mean, and a parent called me and said, where's my kid? There's about a handful to 15 kids that I wouldn't be able to tell you where they're at for lunch. Or if we were to go on a lockdown and we're not allowed to let kids back in, I mean, they're gonna miss out until we get to that point. We had some other issues where there's kids doing things that they shouldn't be doing. We had some kids driving, we had kids getting ride from people that I don't even know who they are, I'm sure the parents don't know who they are. And yeah, but I I can make consequences for that, but the fact that it happens once just kinda scares me. I wouldn't want my kid hopping in a vehicle. I'm sure they know who they are, but I don't. So, it's just a culmination of things that I think.
So a few bad apples ruined it, basically, which is all right, I'm fine with that. I didn't know that anybody broke all these rules, so.
Yeah, and it was more than a handful that
That's how
broke
it works. I mean,
I was gonna say, it sounds like more than a few,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it
there
doesn't
was a
matter, I
good
mean,
few.
and that's how it is in everything in life,
Yep.
like, all it takes is one or two bad ones to screw it up for everybody, so that's just how it is.
And that'll be the number one argument that, we let a few kids ruin this, and that's why, I was really surprised when I went in the subway today that they were willing to do that, and she said, yeah, we'll even bring it up if we can get it worked out and do an online order, so I think that would probably be a happy medium that we could find for a few kids, and like Tim said, we can reevaluate. And yes, they can't bring it into the cafeteria.
I was gonna say, I don't know if that's allowed with this, during the lunch hour that we provide the meal. I don't know, you'd have to check it out, but you could talk to the state people, but anything that, with our meal, if we have our meal and must bring something in like that and we're charging for it, I'm not sure that they will allow that, they might put a frown on that, so.
Are you talking about into the kitchen or the
No, just
lunchroom or
during,
even the whole school?
during the time we serve.
So you
that
can't
you're
even bring your own
taking away
lunch
from
these days?
Our lunch numbers and stuff.
Well, they can use the new lounge.
I think we've had kids bring, purchase meals in, but, and this, we probably have some more because kids that bring their own lunch or that purchase, they don't just get to sit here, there, or wherever. We have one place designated for students to eat lunch, where they bring their own or eat school lunch. So, we'll get confirmation of that, but, I don't believe that the state can prohibit, folks from choosing to eat something other than school lunch. And then put you in a position to have a second identified lunch, eating area, but. So yeah, it'll change some procedure for some, like Mr. Schmidt said, anywhere from like 5 to a dozen. We don't have 20-30% of our sophomores through seniors that leave campus. Some will be irritated by it.
So you're gonna open that up to more grades then, if they want a subway? Is the whole high school, junior high and everything then at that point, or is it still just the seniors?
It would be just seniors is what we would do for that.
Just seniors or the sophomores through seniors?
Just seniors for that this year.
Ouch.
I know.
Dang, I'm glad you weren't my principal.
So we need a motion to approve those handbook changes.
I'll make a motion to accept the 2021-2022 elementary and high school handbooks as read.
Second.
First and second, any more discussion? Deb?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
James?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries 6-0. Discuss and take possible action on renewing NRCSA membership for 21-22.
So you have that information in your packet, and also, that bit of a schematic that shows what what your membership provides, the services that are provided to the school district. We've been, Plainview Public School's been a member now for 4 years. And that's Nebraska Rural Council of School Administrators, or Nebraska Rural Community Schools Association, sorry, it's not an individual membership. So, it's an overwhelming majority of public school districts in the state of Nebraska, because most are rural. So, it's an advocate for rural school districts. Oftentimes, we're at odds with, OPSs and LPSs and Norfolk Public Schools and such for particular language with the unicameral and so on, but, so, just a strong advocate for 200+ school districts in Nebraska, among other things.
MRCSA membership for the 2021-2022 year.
I'll second it.
There's been first and second, any more discussion? Myself, yes. Wyatt?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Jim? Deb?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Discuss and take possible action on appointing Dr. Darren Arnold as the state and federal programs director for the district.
Annual requirement every July, just.
No money, just to vote.
On record, yeah.
Gotta do it.
That's a good one.
And you want this because I'm gonna be capturing $500,000 through a federal program,
Yep.
so.
I'll make a motion to appoint Dr. Hall as the district federal program director for the 21-22 school year.
Second.
First and second, any more discussion? Chance?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Jim?
Yep.
Deb?
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries 6-0. Okay, reports, activity director's report.
First thing, I put huddle on there because our huddle bill will be coming up either in August or September. And last year in September, when we got the huddle focus camera, I just wanted to let you guys know that you approved 2 years worth of payment. That was, last year we paid $5,400, this year we'll pay $5,400 again. So when that bill comes through, I didn't want you to be surprised that I approved something that's over $5,000 without you guys approving it, but just to remind you, last September, we did do that, so it should all be taken care of. Facility updates, we went through the lights and the track already. Posters and banners, we will do individual posters here at the beginning of August to hang in the gym for the seniors, like we've done in the past. And then we'll be taking team posters, and then we will have, an activity schedule. There's it hanging over there. We'll have another one of those made that we'll be able to share with businesses and allow them to hang up within their establishment, so people are able to see, the seniors that are involved, but also activities that are going on. Coaches Clinic is here at the end of July. We have a good group of coaches going down this year. I think there was 11 or 12 at one point. Now I think we're back down to 10. There was a couple that aren't gonna be able to make it. But having double digits go down to that and progress, professionally is gonna be a lot of fun. Also, the camaraderie of just hanging out as a group and talking about sports is gonna be a good time. And then August 20th, the Booster Club is going to be doing a kickoff. And so that night, the volleyball team scrimmages Osmond at 5:30, and then they're gonna do a little kickoff down at the football field, and then the football team will scrimmage after that at around 8 or 8:30 that night. So, it should be a fun little get-together. I think Coach Hodson brought up today, there's gonna be a little route that the cross-country kids are gonna run too, so we'll get to watch that while they're down there. So, we're gonna get everybody involved and have, some different things going on.
The football against Osmond too, or?
No, just against ourselves, so. The administrator's report, summer school, is done. And so high school, we had 5 out of 8 students that recovered credit. That's about it.
Okay.
Coach?
Elementary, we had 49 students who attended on a regular basis. In your board packets, I gave you a couple different graphs to look at that just kind of showed statistics from where we started versus where we ended in the 4 weeks. And almost every one of the students that participated in the summer school program showed improvement, so we were very excited about that. And I know the teachers worked really hard to help make that happen. So our ability to put more time and effort and energy into that summer school paid dividends for us. So it excites me to know that we're willing to do that for a couple years to come down the road as well.
So I have a question on these charts.
Uh-huh.
Like the math, for instance, some of these charts only go up to like 15 or 20. Is that out of 100?
No, it just depends on how many skills they tested.
Okay.
So every grade was a little different. That's why.
Good. Gonna say they
That's not-
improved, but they got a long ways to go.
It's not Randolph math.
Ooh.
What's that thing on?
They started at 100 and go up from there.
That's a good one.
Okay, the other thing that we are still looking for a para in the library, between the high school and elementary library. We are seeking a para for that position, and Kyle is hoping to find another one for the high school as well. So we are both still looking for a para there. Math materials, Kyle is going to pilot Envisions with 2 of his math classes. We in the elementary have looked at the Envisions math materials, but we would like to be able to compare to another another outlet, so we're going to seek that out and kind of investigate first semester with the hopes of piloting the program that we pick second semester. So by the end of next year, we both should have our math curriculum figured out and which one we're using.
So to give you a heads up, that'll be a bill coming at some point, or at least to consider looking at new math resources over, for the 21-22 school year, or 22-23 school year is what it would be.
Yep, and that would be K-12.
Yep.
So the pilots cost too? just to-
Pilots are free.
Pilots are free.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So I'm working with Devin right now from Savas and Pearson, and she'll be sending out, I haven't heard back from her for sure, but a middle level math book and then also an upper level math book, so that way both Mr. Boyer and Mrs. Ebenhouse will be able to pilot one, and also use the current math books that we have in their other classes and be able to get feedback on which one they prefer.
And we would like to just echo that in the elementary second semester, same kind of setup.
You'll remember a couple of years ago, we purchased Wonders, and it's a 5-figure plus expense. This will be the same. It'll be ESSER eligible, so you will be able to use ESSER funds for that purpose if you so choose. And that would have to be part of the $103,000, because evidence-based curriculum falls under unfinished learning requirement. So there will be funds, if there's funds left, but that would have to come out of that mandatory 20% of the total that has to go towards unfinished learning. It can't go to boilers. 20% has to go to directly affecting kids, not air quality.
But more than 20% could go to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Minimum of,
tied
just
to
a
that,
minimum of
yeah.
20% has to go to unfinished learning.
Then we're looking at orientations, both high school and elementary. In the high school right now, we're looking at doing August 11th for the junior high, bringing them in and getting them acquainted with the building, giving them their schedules, kind of giving them the rules and expectations about things. High school, we're looking at doing something similar to last year. We had each grade level come in individually. I'm looking at just doing it as a whole. So since we don't have restrictions, we can bring everybody in, go over any changes or anything different. Kids get their schedules. They're able to set up a time to meet with Mr. Peter if they need to get their schedule changed. So when they come, August 17th, schedule's set, and that's what you have for that school year. So those informational letters are gonna be going out here at the beginning of August along with kids' schedules, so they have those ahead of time.
I just need to touch base with a couple teachers that are part of the open house, so we hope to do the same thing in the elementary that first week before school starts.
That's it from us.
Thank you. All right, president's report. All I've got, I think, Tim, did you get an email today from the lady from Creighton?
Yeah, I think everybody.
Did everybody get it? I just saw Tim's name on it. You guys all got it?
I didn't look.
Okay.
Dorothy Martin.
It's about a meeting Wednesday night about this education, health education in the state. Okay, well, if y'all got it, I'm done. Superintendent's report.
Okay, and I can address that just a little bit. You're all aware of at a certain level that the State Board of Education is considering new health standards for public schools in Nebraska. They have a first draft, and then they accepted public input. As a result of that public input, they are currently writing a second draft, after which time they will take more public input. A certain level of controversy, I'm sure you're aware, and as I've shared with you a couple of times, whatever they do pass, whatever version that might be in the end, it might be stripped of whatever controversial language is in there that's creating quite a bit of irritation among some folks. School districts won't be required to develop curriculum to teach to those standards. So they would approve certain standards. Local school districts then decide whether they're going to write curriculum to address those standards. So they won't be mandated. the state is really trying to make sure people understand all those facts, because a lot of folks, don't necessarily. It's really not worth us getting in a huge, I love that we don't have a large number of our public here, telling you that doggone it, you better not be, approving these health standards and teaching my 7-year-old about this, that, or the other thing with their bodies and so on. We're not even close to that, and I don't think we're even gonna get there. So I'll continue to keep you informed. You keep yourself informed, certainly, quite easily, I think. But if you ever, want a draft copy, I'll provide it for you. You can find your own online, but if you ever want a hard copy, because that's the way you wanna read and educate yourself and be prepared, just let me know and I'll provide that to you when that second draft comes out. But this is nothing that's imminent. It's weeks or months it's months or more down the road. So I like that that we're, hey, it's okay. We got other things we need to spend our time talking and thinking about, which is the start of school in a month. Rather than something that could be happening, months and months and months down the road, that's not even gonna be mandated. So, if you ever need any information with regard to that, please let me know. And certainly if somebody addresses you, feel free to refer them to me if you'd like, or you can certainly engage them in conversation about what your position might be on it.
So will you let us know, or could you send us the second draft?
Yes.
When it is out?
I can certainly do that. I'll just send you the link. I'll send you the link
The
to
link
it,
would be
and
good
then
enough.
if you prefer a hard copy, I'll make you a hard copy.
Yeah.
Because I've looked through the first draft, and I get where some
I have a
people.
copy of the first draft.
Yes.
So I would like to compare how they changed some of that stuff.
Yeah.
My concern, and not like you said,
Yep.
we can discuss this. There's some things that should be taught at home, and then our teachers' plates are full, and now you're
Yep.
asking, yeah,
Yep.
so
Amen.
I would like to be proactive, personally, and write to these people and consider what they're asking more of our staff.
Yeah, because that's a good
I don't wanna
point
wait
to it
too
as
late.
well, Deb. It doesn't matter that there might be controversial topics in there. It's don't now mandate something beyond your language literacy and your math and everything. So, there is a certain level of, we only have so much time, and we do have to
Exactly.
prioritize all the things that you do expect, that we want our kids to achieve a certain level of mastery. Is this really rise to that level? So I absolutely will keep you informed.
Thank
So
you.
my question is like, I get it, if they do pass it, we don't have to mandate it, but how long does a bill like that, or whatever you wanna call it, sit up there before they finally are like, you're gonna do it no matter what? You know what I
Or
mean?
you lose funding.
Cause I do feel like
I-
that if they get it there, that's just the first step of them, eventually they're gonna crack it down and make us do it.
What, and I worry about the way they make us do is you'll lose funding if you don't.
Yeah.
We can't mandate, but like you said, there's a second draft, but you need to be aware of what the language is and what they're asking kindergarten teachers to teach. To me, I might be old fashioned, but that's a parent's job. And the more and then I had a gentleman say, well, parents they don't do it. That is not our job to be a parent. Maybe our job is to mandate parents take a parenting class every time a child's born, and every year take another hour. We can't keep, and I think we need to give more credit to parents too, that is not
You
okay.
make it easy for them, then they don't.
And also, the other side, Dr. Arnold, I as a kindergarten teacher, if I had that, is it the way it reads now, I would tell you that I am not teaching that. You're gonna have to reprimand me or something, but I am not teaching 5 and 6-year-olds. What's stated right now.
As far as I'm concerned, we'll raise taxes before we'll do it. We'll tell the state to keep their money, we don't get that much anyway, raise our taxes.
I don't know,
a little bit.
but you're right,
About half a
it's gonna
penny,
change,
about
but I
half a
think,
penny on the levy
I would
is
like
what
to
our-
see how the language changed, cause it's
Yep.
gotta change a lot.
Yep. Yep, I think there's some pretty good feedback across the state.
Good.
Yep.
I'm
So-
okay with it so far.
Yep.
Can you tell me?
I would ask you to put
I'm
September
actually
first,
glad.
put September 1st on your calendar. I'll remind you again next month. That's an area membership meeting in Norfolk. Would love to have the entire board go to Norfolk for the evening, couple hours. So you talk about a little bit of a retreat. That would be quasi, but that's, led by NASB. It's talk about effective boards. It's not, it's just opportunity to talk with one another and with even other board members, in our rural communities about what effective board leadership looks like. So please put that on your calendar. I hope that works. There's information about the Suburban. The REAP SRSA, REAP stands for Rural Education Achievement Program, SRSA stands for Small Rural School Achievement Program. I go in and complete documents and paperwork to capture some of these funds. I think just over $50,000, Kelly, last week. The feds wired to us with a punch of the button. We use those monies to pay our title teacher, or title para, I should say, because there is some specificity for where you can use it. So just wanted you to be aware, and our stakeholders to be aware, that we are, as a school district, capturing, federal funds that are eligible for us under certain guidelines. Speaking of, our ESSER II funds are $231,000 plus. We've spent some of that already. Our grant has been approved, and so I'll be working with the grant management system program and Kelly to provide proof that we've had these expenditures. So we're going to be getting some of that $231,000, coming back to us, which will be nice. I said I did apply for, and all of our families will receive breakfast and lunch at no cost again this next school year. All families. So same as last year. So I mean, that's awesome, and for many of our families, that's a game changer. For some of them, it's not. That's the way it is. They'll spend their monies on other things that hopefully stimulate the economy locally and such. But
So is part of that because Wyatt's donating the beef this year?
Talk about this.
Yeah.
It's already 9 o'clock, and I'm hungry, and I wanna go home.
Then just say yes.
Mike's donating all the corn to feed the whole pit.
Yeah. You have to donate. We can't charge you because then that would be a contract and a conflict of interest. So yes, so that's good stuff. And there's your enrollment summary, vacation and sick balance changed from last month because I'm under new contract as of July 1st.